Hey everyone, what's up? My name is Kathleen and I am a provisional psychologist, and I've made this video to give you a little bit of insight into what your psychologist is probably thinking during your first therapy session. So why am I doing this? Personally, I know how uncomfortable it is to go and talk to a psychologist for the first time, not really knowing what to expect. They're a complete stranger and you're sharing very vulnerable things about yourself. So in this respect, I'm hoping that this video will ease any fears or uncertainty around doing this, because I believe that therapy is an amazing thing to do, especially if you're going through a difficult time. But the second reason that I'm making this video is because the tools that a psychologist uses are very internal. And if you're wanting to get into this profession, it's hard to know what this internal skill set looks like. So I'm really hoping that this video will give you a little bit of insight. So let's just dive into it. These are 5 things that your psychologist is probably thinking during your first therapy session. The first, and probably one of the most important things, is that they're trying to be empathic. When I'm in the therapy room and someone is telling me about a problem or a trauma, I am actively listening and trying to imagine what this would feel like from their perspective. I'm really focused on putting myself in their shoes, so to speak, and imagining the details of the experience they're describing. And I'm not being sympathetic towards them, which means taking pity on someone. Instead, I'm doing my very best to try and understand their unique experience, what it looks like, what it feels like, and also show compassion. Having somebody pay close attention to your experience and really try and see things from your point of view is, in my own opinion, a very healing process. So I like to be delicate and I bring a lot of care and warmth to this part of the job. During this process, the other thing that I'm being very intentional about is being non-judgmental. This comes hand in hand with empathy, and it's a genuine process. So you shouldn't feel like your psychologist is being fake with you. I can guarantee that I would not be good at my job if I lacked these 2 things. So while I'm actively listening to somebody talk, I won't make any sort of judgmental statement. And I will not be sitting there quietly judging someone. All of my attention is taken up with trying to be empathic. And I should still flag that psychologists are human, we're not perfect beings. However, we are aware of what issues we can't take on, and we wouldn't work with a client if we think that it would be a problem, because this would go against our ethical code. So I guess the take home is that when you're talking to a psychologist and telling them something that's very vulnerable, they're not reacting to it with judgment. Instead, they're doing their very best to try and understand what this feels like for you by being empathic and compassionate. The other thing that I aim to do, which is really important in this line of work, is show the client that I am on their team. I've got their back. I want to set them up for success as much as I can. So in order to do this, I need to start building some rapport. Being empathic and non-judgmental is a good place to start. However, I'm also weary of my presentation. As an example, I might adapt some of my mannerisms. Let's say I have a client who has a tendency to swear a lot. I might chuck in a swear word here and there too. Something like, yeah, that sounds really shit. And I'm not doing this to be manipulative. To illustrate this, on the flip side, if I had a client that was swearing and I reacted in a very formal way, I might make them feel a little bit uncomfortable. So I'm just weary of the client's nuances and trying to adapt my approach to suit them, with the goal of hopefully helping them feel at ease, feel like we're collaborating together, hopefully feel like I'm on their team. Another way that I might try and build a little bit of rapport is to get the client to tell me about what they're interested in or what they're really passionate about. And this way I can learn a little bit more about what lights them up, or if I share that interest, I can also make a small comment of, yeah, I like that too. Not to redirect the attention on myself, because the attention stays on the client, but just to bring about a sense of shared connection, a sense of shared enjoyment around something, to show them that I'm a fellow human being and give them a sense of joy in knowing that I want to hear more about what they have to say, and maybe we even share a little bit of common ground. These are just a couple of strategies that I use to build rapport and show the client that we're working collaboratively together. We are a team. Okay, next up, I want to talk about curiosity. Being empathic, being non-judgmental, building rapport. These are all the obvious elements that I'm bringing into the therapy room while I'm talking to the client. On the inside, I'm always going back to these 2 questions. What is the problem that the client is wanting to work on? And potentially, are there any other problems going on in this situation the client might not be aware about? And then the second thing, what is the client hoping to get out of therapy? What would be the best outcome for them? What results would they like to see? Once this is clearly defined, which can sometimes take a couple of sessions, then I have a much better sense of what my role is in supporting them with this journey. Okay, so the final thing that's going on underneath the surface during therapy that goes hand in hand with curiosity is the case formulation. This is also known as the 5 Ps. And basically, this is a process of gathering information from the client. We want to understand what are the predisposing factors. So that's the first P. And this means what made the client vulnerable to this problem in the first place. We also want to understand what are the precipitating factors. So P number 2, what triggered the problem? Then the third P, what have we defined the problem as being? Then number 4, what is perpetuating this problem? Why is it still a problem? What factors are making it continue? And finally, the 5th P, which is protective factors. What is keeping the client safe? What support do they have in place? Is there anything that we can use for the treatment plan? Working out the case formulation is, in a nutshell, our roadmap. It's the tool that we use to have a rich understanding of the client and working out how we can actually help them. And often it takes a couple of sessions to map this out. Personally, when I figured out my client's case formulation, I like to share it with them. I like to ask for their feedback if I need to add any more information to it, and it makes therapy feel like a more collaborative process. It also gives the client a better sense of the treatments that I'm recommending and the reasons for why I feel like this would be helpful. So look, I hope that this video gave you some good insight into what your psychologist is probably thinking during your first therapy session. If you're thinking about seeing a psychologist, then I really hope this video helps to put your mind at ease if you're feeling any discomfort or if you're feeling a bit nervous. And if you're looking at becoming a psychologist, I also hope this video gives you some rich insight into what it's like working on the job. With all of that said, I hope that you have an amazing week, and I will talk to you later. Bye!